And we are back once again with another great episode of Liam Picks Fights. Welcome, everybody. I am excited for this breakdown. We're coming at you early in the week for UFC 269, two title fights. Should be a great card. The UFC likes to do a big offering at the end of the year. And so I had to bring along a great guest to break down this card with me. I brought along a returning friend of the show, none other than Marathon MMA. I know how much everybody loves when I have Marathon on the show. So excited to break this card down with him. Want to mention right off the rip, this show is brought to you by PrizePicks. So is all my content. If you've never checked out PrizePicks before, it's a very simple daily fantasy offering. All you need to know is that it's you versus PrizePicks projections. That's all you got to beat. So if you think that they've got a projection that's off, they've got them for MMA, NFL, NHL, NBA, everything you can imagine. You could do cross-sport entries. It's the easiest DFS entry out there. If you want more information, it's in the description box below. Use my promo code Liam. 100% deposit match up to $100. But without further ado, guys, we're going to get started breaking down this card. And so I'm going to bring in my man, Marathon MMA, one of the very best out there. Marathon, how you doing today, brother?
Good. How are you, man?
I'm doing quite well. I know that this is a man of few words when it comes to these fight breakdowns, but often very insightful. So we will start in the 125-pound women's division. We've got Priscila, Cachoeira, catch a beating, as my man Paul Shag likes to say, and Gillian Robertson on the other side. Kind of fell on hard times in the division, but probably the more well-considered prospect, all things considered. So how do you feel about this matchup with a big favorite in Gillian Robertson?
Yeah, so the problem is you can't lay minus 400 on her, for obvious reasons. Cachoeira should probably be pretty competitive, if not winning the exchanges on the feet. She comes forward, and even in her last couple fights, she's been pretty competitive on the feet. Gillian's a punching bag, no head movement. She kind of is a one-trick pony. She wants to get you on the ground and use her jiu-jitsu and just kind of lay on you. The problem, the path to victory for Cachoeira is there with sprawl and brawl. If she can just sprawl and brawl, we've seen Gillian striking. But the problem is Gillian usually beats the girls that she's supposed to. So I can't place a bet on Priscilla here, and I can't really place a bet on Gillian. But if I had to pick a side, I'd probably have to go with the dog here, just sprawl and brawl.
Absolutely. And I feel like the way to bet on Priscila Cachoeira, if you're betting on her, is to win fights by knockout. I don't really think she's got much of a minute winning potential. I think she's very prone to give up rounds and minutes on her back. I don't think she's got the greatest takedown defense. But with that being said, she is a pretty powerful woman, and she kind of fights with that, Brazilian brawler-esque style where if she can get things going on the feet, Gillian Robertson isn't really somebody you want to rely on to stand up to, undue aggression. So I think that this is a pass fight, all things considered. I think this is maybe a look to bet on the under, or if you really are passionate about playing a side, I would look to play them inside the distance because I do think both of them have a path to a finish here. And in the women's fight, that might get you a little bit further at the betting window. But overall, this is a fight that I will not be touching from a betting perspective. And so we can move along very quickly to a interesting fight here. A little bit at the lower levels. We've got Randy Costa and Tony Kelley at the 135-pound division. So a lot of bantamweight features here tonight. And I think that this is an interesting enough fight. Randy Costa looked very good against Adrian Yanez, landed a lot of effective strikes, really bloodied up his face, but seems to be a bit of a cardio liability, seems to be one of these first-round firecrackers, that gets going fast and sometimes burns the candle a little bit too fast and leaves himself with nothing. And I think that, against Tony Kelley, you don't want to leave yourself with nothing, but that being said, Tony Kelley did just fight tooth and nail with Al-Kisi. That's not really a guy that I rate. Tony Kelley been fighting for a really long time, but hasn't really accrued a lot of experience, which is a concern to me. He doesn't get in the octagon very often. So I don't really think that this would be a fight I'd have a big bet on. I think that Randy Costa very well could win this fight in the first round. So I might look to live enter if I'm going to play the Kelley side. And if he's able to survive the first round, I think it's possible we'll get a nice live entry. They're getting a little bit sharper to some of the guys that gas out But if he sustains a lot of damage, especially, it might look like he is, on his way out. So that's something I'm considering here from a betting perspective. Bout Better says the same thing. Live bet Kelley round 2. That's kind of what I'm thinking. But it's not a fight that I'm passionate about. I kind of want to see how both these guys fare as they start to increase their level of competition. How do you like this fight?
Yeah, I think Costa's clearly the side. No hot take here for me. The cardio is obviously an issue, but with these young guys at a good camp, he's gonna have that fight where the cardio improves, right? We see it all the time with these young guys. Kelley doesn't possess the archetype needed to gas Costa out either. I mean, this guy, uh, it's gonna take place on the feet. I think Costa's pretty much more talented everywhere on the feet, right? This guy could chuck up four head kicks in like 10 seconds. So 3-inch reach advantage, 7 years younger. We saw what he was doing to Muniz in the first round. This guy's eventually gonna, clear this cardio up, trading out of Sanford MMA. So to me, Costa minus 110 inside the distance is probably the play. I haven't touched the fight personally, but if you are betting Kelley, obviously wait around, get him at plus 300-400. But yeah, Costa inside the distance is probably the play.
The only thing I noticed looking at the stat line was just that we don't really see a lot of leg kicks on the Randy Costa side. And I do think that Tony Kelley, if he's a smart fighter here, will try and run away for the first round, not get hit by anything too clean, pick him apart a little bit with the leg kicks, and then try and advance in the second and third round. But I'll be interested to see how that one plays out. Probably not something I will get involved with pre-fight. So we can move along to a 145-pound fight. It seems like the UFC doesn't really know what to do with Ryan Hall at this point. If I'm looking at this fight, Darrick Minner, kind of like a journeyman of the sport, I say with all due respect. He's been around regional MMA for a really long time, kind of like a pandemic UFC fighter, found his way in the door when they're looking to put on shows. He's an entertaining fighter. I think he might have some upside in this matchup simply because I don't know what to expect from Ryan Hall here, fresh off a pretty brutal loss. He's not a young man. He doesn't really have a style that I think is going to age tremendously well, but he is pretty defensively sound, doesn't get hit all that often. I think that this is a weird fight to cap. I think Darrick Minner is like, what is he not going to grapple in this fight? He normally shoots like a takedown every 2 seconds. He normally spends no time standing in his fights, very little time at distance. So it does make me think if they engage in the grappling, I think Ryan Hall is probably going to find a submission. He's probably more clever as a grappler. But I think that if Darrick Minner is smart and he can avoid some of the leg lock positions, it's possible he gets a positional TKO if the chin of Hall is compromised. So maybe the fight doesn't go. Maybe the under 2.5 as a potential way to play this fight. Darrick Minner still strikes me as somebody who's prone to death gas. I don't think he's going to be able to, Charles Rosa this fight. I think Ryan Hall is a more effective jiu-jitsu player than that, and gets a little bit more respect. So I think, this is an interesting one. James Krause is in the corner, and that is for me a saving grace potentially for Darrick Minner. But I've also seen Darrick Minner, go out there and fight against the James Krause game plan with Krause still in his corner in the Elkins fight. So I don't know exactly what to make of this one. How about you, Marathon?
Yeah, so we're all waiting to kind of fade Ryan Hall after the Topuria fight, but Darrick Minner's not Topuria. He doesn't have anything special on the feet or this really good striking game to really to make us want to fade Hall. And I think it's pretty inevitable that that Minner at some point in this fight is going to end up in Hall's guard, whether Hall's on top or bottom. He's going to be in his guard. Hall striking is really awkward. It's not really easy to deal with. And the Topuria loss wasn't a bad loss, so I don't really factor it in too much. I know he looked pretty bad, but one thing I want to point out is Minner. He's a finishing machine, man. Whether he's losing or he's finishing. 13 of his last 14 fights ending inside the distance. Out of all 13 of those finishes, none of them hit round 3. So the under 2.5 here covers. So if you are on the Minner side, cool. That covers if Minner gets his round 1 or 2 finish, which he's been doing his whole career. You cover that side, and you cover the fact if Hall is to get a submission, maybe a heel hook, leg lock, something like that. The under 2.5 covers both guys. So if you did get in on the under 2.5 when it first dropped, I think -110, maybe even at plus money it came out at. I think it was like pick'em odds. That was a great bet, and you should definitely comment down below and let us know if you got that bet at -110, because we're looking at -170 now for the under, and I know a lot of people got in early on that. So I just want to give a shout out to everyone who got in early on that, because that was a good bet. Yeah, like I said, if you like Ryan Hall, you probably think he subs Minner, and if you like Minner, you probably think that he keeps up the round 1 or 2, gets him out of there before he gasses. So the under 2.5 to me here looks like a play.
Awesome. Love to hear it. Seems like we're in agreement there. Don't love the price as much now that I'm hearing it. I like that initial line that I saw. Did not lock it in at the price. So going to have to deal with what I have available to me. So I'll have to make a game time decision whether I want to play the under 2.5. But it does look like a spot that's going to hit more often than not. So I like that as a look. Now we move to the flyweight division. A lot of lightweight fights to get us started. Alex Perez versus Matt Schnell. And there's something that I don't like on the Alex Perez side, which is that he's coming off, one of those title fight losses. Not something I love to see, because it always makes me think, what is their confidence going to be like? What is their dedication going to be like? But I think that this is a very winnable fight for Perez here. I think that Schnell, he's got a decent enough guard game, but a little bit too willing to pull guard, kind of been knocked out by very short punches before, from Pantoja, been knocked out on the ground, been knocked out standing. I just have a lot of concerns about his durability. I think that he's a decent enough fighter. He moves around well. But I also kind of like what I've seen from Alex Perez from a grappling perspective, barring that Figueiredo fight. And honestly, Figueiredo just has a really nasty arm and guillotine. That was kind of unbelievable that he was able to finish it from there. Really good balance, really good composure. So I don't think that that's like a, super replicable outcome for everybody in the division. I think Perez is going to cause problems for people, if he is still the same guy. And I think especially in this kind of fight, I think this might be, a soft enough landing where I don't know how interested I am in playing him at the price, but to play him inside the distance here, I think is going to be a look for me. How about you, Marathon?
Can you see me? Yeah, so inside the distance was something I was going to bring up. I do think Perez wins, but I want no part of that price tag. The stab on this fight would obviously be the KO prop, just because Matt's chin is absolutely terrible. But it's not far fetched that we probably get a decision here. Perez coming off, he's coming in with a huge durability advantage. He's the younger fighter. He's got more experience. And Schnell's also showed us that he's comfortable off his back playing the guard game. So all signs point here that Perez will into an easy decision, but the stab is definitely the KO.
That all makes sense to me. So Perez is a big favorite. We think he's a big favorite for a reason. And so that's the look that I have for this fight as well, is Alex Perez is probably going to get the nod. And if you're going to take a poke, probably don't lay the money line. Look to target a prop that you like. Marathon seems to be a little more bullish that this goes to decision. I think that, both of these guys are probably more likely to win by finish. But this is a flyweight fight after all. So that's the only thing. Betting fights don't go to decision at flyweight at -140. That would be my only concern is just that, you want a little bit more mass behind the punches if you're going to be backing it at chalk. That's all. So Erin Blanchfield and Miranda Maverick at the women's 125-pound division is what we've got up next. This is a prospect matchup where, to be honest with you, I got to dig into the tape a little bit more. A lot of the fighters on this card I sort of had notes on. I had, a pretty well-developed idea of their game, but I don't have as well-developed an idea about Erin Blanchfield's game. So I got to get myself a little more familiar. Miranda Maverick, powerful girl, decent enough striking. I think that when she's on top, she looks pretty good. She's got some defensive responsibility in terms of submission defense, but has kind of got herself caught in a few grappling positions that weren't that promising. I thought she deserved to win her last fight, but again, leaving it that close optically, I didn't love. So, I don't know exactly how to feel about this fight. I got to do a little bit more digging myself. Is there anything that stood out to you from a betting perspective, Marathon?
Yeah, I do have a bet on Miranda Maverick three units at -130. I got in a couple weeks ago because I thought the line would move a lot more in Maverick's favor. But Erin Blanchfield's she's a respectable prospect. So I kind of I thought this line would be -160, 170 by now. The line's still hanging around where I bet it, and rightfully so. Like I believe Maverick, my breakdown of this fight isn't very. It's pretty simple. I just think Maverick's going to be able to negate. Here we go. I think Maverick's going to be able to negate the grappling at Erin, and this fight will take place standing, where I favor Maverick significantly. I think she'll be able to outwork Erin and just outland her. Maverick's takedown defense is very good. She's got good hips. She's got a good top game. I don't see Erin being able to just grind her out and get her down there. So I think she should be able to outland and outwork Erin to a convincing decision here. This is just too much too soon for Erin, in my opinion. Miranda Maverick that's a tough fight for your second fight in the UFC. This girl's really good, and I think she's just there's tiers in this division, and I think she's just a tier above.
That all, adds up to me. I will just point out that Erin Blanchfield listed as from the great state of New York. So I got to have a little bit of a rooting interest here for Erin Blanchfield as the upcoming prospect. But I do think she might just be a little bit undersized for the division. I know that they've got similar heights in terms of how they're listed, but I don't know. She just strikes me as somebody that didn't look that physical. Granted, she's a better grappler, but I think that this is interesting, man. I want to see how this one plays out. It seems like a fun prospect fight for me. And so, barring any late additions, I won't have action on this fight. What do you got?
Yeah, so I just want to point out that Miranda Maverick she's a very strong girl. She's a very physical girl, and that's one of her best attributes. I don't see Erin being able to just put her head down and eat a couple shots to get this girl in the cage. You go back to her Invicta tape. Miranda Maverick she's just always been way stronger than every girl she's fought. So I don't see Blanchfield being able to just get her up against the cage and cage fuck her. She's not gonna be able to take her down at a high rate. So yeah, I just wanted to point out that Miranda Maverick is very physical, very strong, and it shows in the fight tapes. So
Absolutely. So, with that being said, folks, we can move right along. The next matchup on the card is one of the ones that sort of piqued my interest when I was breaking down these fights. I think that this is a good matchup. It's in a division where I've tend to have a little bit more betting success, the middleweight division. And so, I was interested in this matchup between Andre Muniz and Eryk, your boy Anders. And, Eryk Anders moved to fight ready, seemed to make some improvements in his physique. In his dedication to the game, just looked like he was taking it a little bit more serious. Kind of looked like he was walking around in third gear in the Jotko fight. Didn't look like he wanted to be there. And he said after the fact he was embarrassed about his performance. And that all makes sense to me. But I think it's one thing to beat somebody like a Darren Stewart, who I believe is out of the organization at this point, and then to beat somebody like Andre Muniz, who I think has some credibility as a prospect upcoming here. He's performed pretty well against expectations so far in the UFC. I bet Muniz as an underdog against Bartosz Fabinski. He came through in that spot pretty easily. Granted, we know now about Bartosz. You wrap those arms around Bartosz' neck, he's going to be finding a sure way out of there. But we've also seen that, Andre Muniz, he's got creative submissions. He's got submissions in a lot of positions. He broke Jacare's arm. I had a feeling that was a live possibility. I remember talking about it before the fight that I kind of liked Muniz. I thought he was going to win inside the distance. I thought it was more likely he was going to knock out Jacare, but I remember thinking that Joe Rogan was high on crack when he was talking about, Muniz is saying he's a better grappler than Jacare. That's so disrespectful. How could he believe that as he's submitting him on screen? It's like, Joe, come on, pay attention. But I think that this guy Muniz, he's like a third-degree black belt. been doing jiu-jitsu for his whole life. I really believe that he is a pretty talented guy, and Eryk Anders never been submitted. Normally, he's just too physical, but I don't know. I have a sneaky feeling that Muniz is able to hurt him with a body kick from the outside and maybe wrap up the neck. Anders has a habit of shooting. I like to look for guys that have a habit of shooting when hurt as people to bet against jiu-jitsu guys. And I think that Eryk Anders kind of has that habit of shooting when he gets hurt. He gets hit with knees and kicks to the body and starts folding over a little bit, looking for, body locks, looking for those double leg blast entries. And I think that against Muniz, if he spends a few seconds in the guard in top position, he could get submitted here because Muniz is that clever and that crafty. With all that being said, I haven't laid the chalk yet. I'm thinking about placing a money line wager on Andre Muniz. I've already told you about that. I'm thinking about playing Muniz by sub. I'm thinking about playing Muniz inside the distance. And I really am thinking about playing the under in this fight because I think that if Eryk Anders wins this fight, more often than not, it's Eryk Anders knocking out Andre Muniz. He's got 4 losses. All of them are by knockout. And oftentimes it happens fast. If he's going to lose the fight, he's going to lose it pretty quickly and emphatically. You can't find all of the footage of his losses, but you can find enough of them to know, maybe if he gets touched on the chin. But granted, a lot of those losses were a long time ago. I think Muniz has been making pretty significant improvements. And again, he's performed very well relative to his odds expectation. Eryk Anders has kind of been a prospect and sort of aged out of that already. He went through some of those big fights, didn't win them, and then was fighting down the card and really just clinging to a contract. So I think, obviously the move to fight ready was necessary. I think Eryk Anders is looking better than he has looked in a while, but he is 34 years of age. Muniz is the younger guy. Muniz is getting in the cage with pretty good frequency. He's cashing underdog tickets. He's breaking people's arms. If somebody's doing joint locks, I like to see that they're snapping joints, if just being like straight up. And I like to see they can put somebody to sleep. He can do all the above. He can attack from every position. I like Andre Muniz here, and I like him to finish. How do you feel?
Yeah, so Muniz does seem like the pick here, like me and you were talking, but he's just really sketchy. Anders isn't responsible enough on the ground for me to not to even think about wanting to pick him. Muniz is a younger guy, better trajectory. Like you said, he's coming off a fight where he broke Souza's arm. You can say what you want about that fight and not factor it into the line, but that was a good win considering the fact that Cachoeira, if he has anything left in him, it's his jiu-jitsu. Muniz rolled right through him. And, a lot of people are talking poorly about that win. We all liked Muniz going into that fight. The price was very intriguing, but none of us bet it, right? For a reason. There was reason. So Muniz to me, the only way I'd play this would probably be the sub or maybe the under. Like you were saying, Anders is just unimpressive. He's kind of been there, done that. We've kind of seen the ceiling. We know what to expect from this guy. We know that if fights get tough, he's not a big fan. He's taking this fight on short notice. I think all signs point to Muniz here. The sub line's plus 140. So, and I do think that covers all of Muniz's win equity. So give me Muniz by sub.
I love it. I love it. That makes perfect sense to me. And, I will just say, I think that there's an outside possibility that Anders does win the fight by decision. I just want to mention because, Muniz, when he's not getting his grappling going, I have seen him gas just a little bit. And like you said, that in terms of the sketchiness, that's sort of where I've seen the sketchiness is he doesn't even look like a bad kickboxer on the feet in the early going. He's just a little bit defensively lax. He's an offense first fighter in every position, and that normally pays off for him on the ground. But I do think it could cost him on the feet. Anders, for all of his faults, he does normally throw. He does normally throw everything with pretty committed power. So if he's able to find his way inside, if Muniz starts to slow down, I think Anders could find a finish. And that's why I think the under is not a bad spot. But Anders by decision is also a little bit sneaky. Yes.
So one more thing I want to point out. You made a great point there. and we need to go a little bit more in depth on it. When Muniz doesn't get his way early on in a fight, he does not like it. So that's another reason why I can't bet him on the money line. This is a guy where he's off, like you said, all offensive. He wants to get in there, snap a limb early. If he's not getting his way early in fights, this dude will get gassy. This dude will get hittable. This dude will get real flaily. And Anders would be live at that point, but you're hoping for Anders to come on late, and he's coming in on short notice, and he's not this world beater cardio machine. So this fight to me is really sketchy. At least with Muniz sub, I know that his win equity, his sub line, it's going to be live all 3 rounds for him to throw up a sub, right? So that to me feels like the only way to play it.
Awesome. That all makes perfect sense to me. So with that being said, guys, I just want to shout out, we got 30 people rocking with us live. Thanks to each and every one of you guys. Make sure, if you haven't done so already, go ahead and drop a like on this video. Go ahead and get subscribed to the channel. I know we got people here every week who aren't subscribed, but you're watching. I appreciate you, but go ahead and get subscribed. You know you're coming back next week too. So appreciate you guys being here, and we're going to move right along to the next fight here. Also in the middleweight division, we got Bruno Silva. He's taking on Jordan Wright, the Beverly Hills Ninja. A lot of people like fading this guy, myself included. When the time is right, I think that Jordan Wright does have some durability problems. I think that, this is a guy who doesn't really love getting hit, but he also has shown that he can crack, he can hit people, he can make them go away. I don't think that he is a bad fighter by any means, but I think that Bruno Silva, I kind of had to learn the hard way, right? When he first came to the UFC, I was like, he's been off for a while. Maybe he's not really in the game. Maybe he just got the call because the UFC is looking for somebody with a record to boost up this Wellington Turman cat. So then Wellington gets absolutely sparked clean out in like the only second where Silva is not being controlled in that fight. And I'm like, oh, this guy's got pretty damn good power. Went back, watched all the fights. It's the same thing that he was doing on the regional scene. He's doing it in the UFC. When he touches guys on the chin, they're very prone to going to sleep. They're very prone to being completely scrambled. And Jordan Wright, that happens to him against subpar, strikers, against guys that are average. I think that against somebody like this, it's another prime candidate for him to get knocked out. I don't think that Bruno Silva is like a joke of a grappler. Andrew Sanchez, powerful grappler. Don't mean to toot my horn, but I did call that fight to a T. I told everybody Andrew Sanchez is going to be looking glorious through 2 rounds, but it's that 3rd round where Andrew Sanchez has a mental lapse. And if he hasn't finished the fight, he starts to fear the fatigue. And Bruno Silva, it only takes a couple of opportunities for him to get you out of there. I think Jordan Wright is going to give him enough opportunities. That being said, he's minus 350 on the money line for that reason, right? A lot of people are seeing what I'm seeing. I do think that, Jordan Wright, his most likely path is to win this inside the distance. Bruno Silva's most likely path is to win this inside the distance. So looking at the fight doesn't go, looking at the unders here seems like a good way to play this. Looking at either fighter wins by KO, TKO, I think that's, probably about 100 cents shorter than the fight doesn't go the distance. And that to me seems like, a pretty live spot here. But I just think this is a fight that spells violence one way or the other. Jordan Wright can't really help but be in a violent finish one way. Whether it's going for him or it's going against him, he is in car crash finishes. And I think that Bruno Silva, he's going to be driving the truck this weekend. How about you, Marathon?
Yeah, so Wright should probably get nuked here, but there's always that slim chance that he lands that knee KO. He does crack himself. He's got some crafty kicks, awkward karate style. So probably more technical on the feet. He's got a lot more dog in him than Wright. We saw that in the Andrew Sanchez fight. He probably gets the KO here. He's tougher, more durable, more of a dog, probably more technical, hits harder. But I do like the either fighter wins by KO, TKO minus 240. Like you said, it's a lot shorter than the fight doesn't go to the decision. And it covers both fighters' win equity. So I think that'd be the way I'd play it.
Awesome, man. I love it. And if you're looking for that sneaky, 0.1 unit poke to go along with it, I think both of these guys are live to club and sub the other. If the guy's completely rocked, falls to his hands and knees, I think both of these guys are capable of hopping on the back, finding an easy submission. So if you've put down a decent sized bet on the fight ends by KO and you don't want to find yourself screaming at the television, then you put that tiny little poke next to it on either fighter to win by submission, because I think that's probably going to be a pretty high plus money. So moving right along, folks, we can look at the next fight on the card. Another prelim here, but this one's in the heavyweight division. Normally, the UFC likes to shove these on the pay-per-view portion of the card. Instead, we've got Augusto Sakai, coming off of some big fights, some relevant fights in the division. Now he's fighting way down the card against Tai Tuivasa, who just took care of business for the MMA community in his last time out there against Greg Hardy. So interesting spot here between two heavyweights, kind of in different directions right now. Ty's been on a little bit of a winning streak. Augusto at a higher level of the division, been falling short in a couple of these fights in a row. How do you feel about this heavyweight matchup? Is there any interest in you from a betting perspective?
Yeah, I haven't hit anything yet, but I do have a pretty good read on this fight, in my opinion. Sakai's coming off a brutal knockout loss just 5 months ago. And, Ty's, at least we know he's steadily improving. Different trajectories here in their careers, I think. Sakai just kind of had his chance at the big fights, like you mentioned, kind of fumbled the bag. Ty's coming in showing way more patience in his fights. He's coming in with a more technical approach. He's starting to use the calf kick here, like here and there, which I like. Those calf kicks are a lot more meaningful at heavyweight than any other division. Huge durability advantage here for Tai Tuivasa. We know he can eat a punch. Do we know that about Sakai? Ty's going to be the guy moving forward. Sakai doesn't like being hit. He's going to be backing up. We know as far as the optics, it's going to be all Ty coming forward. And where's Sakai's head at, man? He just got his clock clean with a second left on the round, and the optics are just going to be all there for Ty, and he's probably going to find the chin and get a finish here. Fight doesn't go to decision at minus 220 is safe, but why not take either fighter to win by KO TKO at minus 160? You're welcome. That to me is just why parlay the fight doesn't go to decision when you could just bet the minus 165 either fighter wins by KO TKO. I don't see either of these guys throwing up subs, so that would be my play here. And if I had to pick a side, it'd probably be Tuivasa.
Yeah, the only concern with that bet would be them standing and staring at each other, and that's not really a Tai Tuivasa fight. He likes to get after it. Even to a fault. I had Greg Hardy, full disclosure, for a small bet at plus money against Ty, and I was like, Greg, we got him. And then Greg Hardy, because it's like the first time he's ever rocked somebody on the feet that was still standing, he sprints forward with his chin in the air and just gets decked. So it was glorious to watch, even as my bet crumbled. And I think that Tai Tuivasa very live to do that again this weekend. Augusto Sakai, I can't tell if Jairzinho really does have the death touch, or if Augusto just got busted up there. I will say the force of that punch, busted his head right open. I do think that Rosenstrike hits like an absolute truck, but Sakai been knocked out a couple times, been finished. I don't think that his skills really impress me that much anyway. He's eking out split decisions in fights where he's outlanding guys by a lot. Don't think he has a tremendous amount of power for heavyweight. And so I think that while he has a decent enough volume Muay Thai game and could potentially finish Ty down the stretch on exhaustion, if Ty comes to this fight in shape, I think he's the one who's more likely to find the finish. I think he does have more power. And I think that the calf kicks are another viable path to stopping the fight for Ty, because, Augusto is kind of like that big, taller guy. I feel like he'd have a hard time standing up to some of those leg kick attacks in the later rounds. So I'm going to pick Tai Tuivasa, and I'm probably going to bet the fight, like Marathon mentioned, from a prop perspective, and then hope for violence. I'm always better off hoping for violence in a heavyweight fight than marrying myself to one of these sides and letting myself be disappointed. Shout out Greg Hardy. But Pedro Munoz up next in the bantamweight division against Dominick Cruz. This to me is, one of the highest level fights on the prelim card. We've got two guys who are just outside of that top 5 looking in the bantamweight division and really trying to cling to title shot relevance here. I think that this is one of the harder fights for me to get a good read on the card. When I'm looking at what I want in somebody to beat Dominick Cruz, I want them to have powerful leg kicks. I want them to be able to hit and hurt. I want them to have a decent sprawl and brawl type game so they're not getting taken down and held down. But I kind of expected Casey Kenny to have success with that model last time. And he didn't have the hardware, the fight IQ, the cardio to stand up to it for 15 minutes and execute. And Pedro, it's a little concerning to me when I dig into his numbers. He's not outlanding people very effectively. He's not outlanding people outside of the leg kicks in very many fights. I don't see Pedro, lighting people up with the hands very often. He was able to sting Rob Font early and force a bad shot out of him. But that was in like 2018. Hasn't really happened lately. I had more faith in Pedro Munoz when he was taking on Jose Aldo than was appropriate. I put down a small wager on him there, and I thought that he got completely outclassed, had no success with the leg kicks, and didn't realize that he should be switching it up and trying to punch to the body and the head himself. Instead, he's throwing spinning kicks, just demonstrating low IQ moves, in my opinion, wasting energy, never really committed to takedown attempts. I didn't see anything of promise from Pedro in his last fight. So I think that this is probably a Dom Cruz or pass for me. But I don't love betting Dom Cruz in this spot. Like I said, I faded him with Casey Kenny. I think he's live to get old overnight because of his style. I think if his speed diminishes, he's going to start getting caught by people. And Pedro, for anything else you want to say about him, if I see Mbe pointing it out. Pedro Munoz by sub is live. I do think he has the best guillotine in the division. And Dom Cruz probably going to be smart enough and defensively responsible enough not to get submitted here. But if he gets hurt and tries to bail himself out with a takedown attempt, Pedro is lights out from that position. I do think he can definitely finish or sweep to the top position because Pedro is pretty slick. But how do you feel about this matchup? It's a matchup that admittedly I'm having a hard time getting a read on the winner. How do you feel, Marathon?
Yeah, so I think personally, I think I got a good read on this one too. Munoz is very flat-footed. I think the footwork by Cruz is going to be very evident. The bigger cage definitely helps Cruz. Not a lot of people are talking about that. This isn't the Apex. This is a pay-per-view card. Cruz is, in my opinion, is going to style on Munoz more than likely. Henry Cejudo is really good, man, and I think we're looking at that fight too much when we're breaking down these other Cruz fights. We got to also factor in that Cruz studies these guys for a living. He handpicks all his opponents, and he's got to see something here that he likes with Munoz. He's the bigger fighter. He likes being pressured. Munoz is going to come forward real plotty, flat-footed. And let's not forget that Munoz was just considering a cut down to flyweight. He wasn't even comfortable in this division. He's undersized. And when a guy's thinking about killing himself to get down to another weight class, that tells me that he knows he can't compete up here anymore. This dude's one fight away from looking real washed. I thought he got outclassed in his last fight. And I think Cruz probably banks 2 rounds here. It's a 70% clip, in my opinion. So Cruz just hit plus money about 10 minutes before we went live on the show. So I am probably going to put a pretty hefty bet on him. I'm already locked in 2 units on the over 2.5 minus 165. Line didn't make much sense to me. Even as a Cruz backer, I understand that he's probably not going to finish here. I'm more banking on the footwork, the plotty style of Munoz, and the fact that I just think that the Cejudo performance on Cruz was masterful. The way he was able to land the leg kicks, the timing, the way he was able to stifle Cruz's footwork. Pedro Munoz isn't going to come in and do any of that. So give me Cruz to bank 2 rounds here. 65-70% implied. I think he gets 2 rounds here. Like I said, Munoz was just considering leaving the weight class. He didn't. It and Cruz handpicks all of his opponents. He sees something here that he knows he can take advantage of. So I like the over 2.5. I like fight goes to decision. I like Cruz plus money. There's no point of, I mean, you can if you want, you can go bet his decision, but this dude's at plus money right now. So give me Cruz and give me the over.
I like it. I like it. Makes a lot of sense to me, man. And I think that, more often than not, this fight goes to decision either way, just because Pedro has probably the better finishing upside here, but he hasn't been a relentless, prolific finisher in the UFC by any means. He's gone to decision with a bunch of these guys, including some of the aging legends like Frankie Edgar. Whereas, the only concern I have for Cruz is like that analog to Frankie Edgar and Tito Vera, where Frankie is banking the rounds, winning the rounds early, but just can't keep up the pace and ends up getting finished late. But, this is, again, a 3-round fight. It's not a 5-round fight. And I think that Dominic Cruz, if he's coming to the fight, he's probably feeling okay. He's probably in decent enough physical condition. So I do think that Dominic Cruz is the side here at evens. We can move right along. We've got a 145-pound fight closing out the preliminary card. The return of Josh Emmett, been away for a while. He's taking on Dan Ige, who, again, is another one of these guys who's been on a little bit of tough time. Secured that one-punch KO of Gavin Tucker, broke my heart and my feelings and my betting slip that night on Gavin Tucker very quickly, but was able to cash on Chan Sung Jung. Both times I was betting those guys as underdogs. Now I would have to lay chalk against Dan Ige, and that's not something I'm in a race to do. I think that Josh Emmett is a good fighter and a dangerous guy, but he's coming off some surgeries. Haven't seen him recently. A little bit older for the division. Doesn't throw at a high clip. Doesn't land at that high of a clip. Dan Ige, he doesn't like blow me away in any one area, but he has some things that I like about his game. When Ige has gotten hurt before in fights, he's found ways to pull guard until he's recovered and get himself back to the feet. He's just got some kind of like savvy to him where I think he can manage a fight pretty well. And he's snuck out decisions over guys that people didn't expect him to. The Edson Barbosa fight comes to mind. He's got decent enough grappling where I don't know that he's going to be able to have success wrestling Emmett here. But I think that he might have some success sprawling attempts from Emmett or continuing a scramble and not allowing Emmett to consolidate clear position. And so for me, this is a fight where, Dan Ige at the original plus number was something that I would have been interested in, missed the movement on the line. So now I think that this is probably closer to an appropriate line. Don't see a tremendous amount of value on Josh Emmett myself. But I do think that he's a great fighter, man. And I thought that he pretty cleanly beat up Shane Burgos, who I've got a ton of respect and admiration for. And I think that, he did a ton of damage in that fight. This guy, Josh Emmett, hands out damage. He hits like an effing truck. So I don't really want to get involved fading Josh Emmett necessarily at a short price either, because I do think he's prone to send a ticket the way of a Gavin Tucker ticket versus Dan Ige. He can round one somebody and make you feel stupid for betting against him. But Dan Ige doesn't strike me as a guy who's going to get one punched either. He's a pretty tough guy. He's pretty durable. And like I said, he's recovered pretty well in fights where he has been hurt. So although I see Emmett as probably the better fighter everywhere, I think that if he doesn't finish, this is probably, a fight that is 60-40, 65-35 if it reaches a decision. So I don't know how much value I'm getting on the line there, but perhaps you feel differently. How do you like this one, Marathon?
Yeah, so as your friend, I'm gonna please ask you not to bet Ige. I think that I think the toughness here can get him nuked, man. I just think that huge power advantage for Emmett, underrated all around skill set outside of his power that we already know about. Wrestling advantage, footwork advantage, which we don't talk about. Probably cardio. I mean, the time off could help him. He's 36. Dude, come in here looking fresh. Ige is really overvalued, man, just because of that flash KO of Gavin Tucker. I don't even really factor that fight in much. Ige doesn't really his power doesn't really worry me. the Korean Zombie fight for me was a really bad look for him. I thought he looked washed. I thought he looked really complacent. I thought he looked just terrible in every aspect of that fight. And Ige always gets battered at some point in every single fight he's in. You know, he's always an eye's always shut, a nose is always bleeding, a mouth is always puffed up, um, jaw's always hurt. Like at some point, Dan Ige takes damage in a fight, and I don't think that he can withstand that damage from Emmett here. Like I don't see him being able to take shots from Josh. I just don't. The power is real. He's the hardest hitting 145er. Everyone's been saying it. It's true, man. I mean, Burgos is 190-pound featherweight, and Josh Emmett was beating the fuck out of him. So I mean, um, yeah, I just think Josh Emmett the play. I haven't played it. Minus 160, I think, is where the line's sitting at. And I'll look to play that. I don't want to get cute with the props because EA is tough. I'm not just gonna say, oh, Josh Emmett hits. He's the hardest hitting 145er. I'm just gonna go run to the betting window and play some by KO. No, can't do that. This guy's he's Hawaiian. You know, he's really tough, but that toughness here could get him hurt. That's just my read on it. He's always like I said, he's always battered at some point in every fight, and you know, I just don't see him withstanding shots from Josh. And the Korean Zombie fight for me was a very bad look.
I get what you mean, man. I do. I think that the Korean Zombie sometimes is underlooked as a grappler. That would be my only little aside there because I do think Ige was starting to get his timing on the feet, and so Chan Sung Jung was like, "F this, I'm just going to take him down." And I was kind of surprised that he had effortless success at portions. Taking Ige down, I thought he would offer a little bit more resistance. I don't know if he came into that fight injured or something. To the point of a lot of people commenting, he's been super active. He seems to take every fight that the UFC offers him, fought a pretty hard strength of schedule. So those are some of the things that are in Dan Ige's favor here. And so again, if you get the plus 185 line, I kind of get it. But now down at plus 140, you're not getting the best of the line at this point. You're betting on somebody that hasn't impressed in some of their recent performances, kind of had an outlier performance, hasn't really had a one-punch knockout analog to that Gavin Tucker performance. So I think that Marathon makes a lot of good points here. Josh Emmett, really good fighter. If you look just at the stats here, might tell you a different story, but I think that on fight night, it's probably going to be Josh Emmett getting the better of the majority of the exchanges. So I'm going to favor him outright here, but not a fight that I have a bet on at this point. Another fight that I'm very intrigued by is the main card opener here. Sean O'Malley, Sugar Sean O'Malley, a great Irish name. So I got to root for that. Fun personality, fun fighting style. Revisiting Sean O'Malley, you see that the skills are there. He's not just a complete hype job. The guy has like legit skills. He's got an interesting game. I've seen him stuff takedowns. I've seen him throw, counter uppercuts when guys start shooting a little bit reckless. I've seen him measure distance with his lead hand when guys start getting aggressive and trying to come forward. And Howley and Paiva, he's got some of the elements I want in somebody I'm going to bet against Sean O'Malley, right? He kicks the legs pretty often. He likes to throw kicks to the body. He does some attritional work. He throws kicks upstairs. So he's not going to leave Sean O'Malley to just pick him apart, punching at distance. He's going to offer something from that range. But with that being said, he's kind of got the Muay Thai style where he doesn't move his head very often. And when he is moving it, it's normally forward, and I think that it's gotten him hurt badly against the likes of Kyler Phillips. Got him hurt against Kai Kara France as well. I think that he's fought a pretty high level of competition so far in the UFC. If you just wiki cap this fight, you're going to see that he got finished by Rogerio Bontorin by KO TKO. If you watch that fight, you know that he easily could have finished Rogerio by KO TKO. He busted his face open. Doctor comes in, looks at it, so they get a little bit of a break there. And then they come back in, they're exchanging again. Howley gets hurt. Game fighter. Sorry about that brief interruption, but what I was saying is that I think Hallian's a game fighter. I think that he's very good. I just think he's in a tough spot here. If he's not able to get top time against Sean O'Malley, I think he's going to be a little bit hung out to dry in this fight. But I have also seen Sean O'Malley kind of gas himself beating somebody up. And, it's kind of like the Ulberg, Kennedy, and Zechiku fight. It's not going to happen every time, but it's going to happen sometimes. When these guys who throw a ton of volume, who are just getting off at will, they are going to keep going and going and going until they throw and there's nothing left. And I thought that Chris Mutino did a good job of presenting himself. I thought he did a good job of, trying to keep himself in the fight. He's a tough guy, but he didn't throw very much and he wasn't able to do almost anything functionally. So it was really just a punching bag performance. I say that with all due respect. So I think that this is not going to be that. Raulian Paiva throws too much. He throws too recklessly in the pocket. I think he's going to try and put hands on Sean. And so I think for that reason, it's going to be a fun fight and interesting. And we might learn something more about Sean O'Malley's toughness. But I do think that Sean is just a better striker here. I think if Hallian's not committed to getting takedowns, he could get caught out on the feet. And I haven't seen enough of the O'Malley grappling to say it's fade worthy. It's just been limited displays in his fights. When he has been grappling, most often he's been badly hurt already. Like Baldy Man says here, O'Malley was gassing, it seemed, but was landing more in the third round than the first two. So it's not like he stopped throwing. I would just add, though, Baldy Man, I think that a little bit of the sting was off those punches, which is why he wasn't getting the finish. Mutino was still getting hit with all the damage. It was a late stoppage, in my opinion. The corner should have intervened first and foremost, but the ref could have stopped it a couple times. It was just that by the time you're at the end of the fight, Sean was throwing, 50% shots. He had nothing left, but he was just still spamming the volume. It's the reason why he laid down right after that fight. He literally gave everything he had to get that finish at the end, which you do like to see as an inside the distance backer. So Marathon, how do you feel about this one? I know you're itching to get a take off your chest.
Yeah, man. I'm not no Sugar Sean fanboy or nothing like that. I'm just I'm a money guy. I like money. And these opponents are they're handpicked very particularly by the UFC brass and O'Malley himself. Let's go look at his last 5 opponents outside of Marlon Vera: Sukumta, Quinones, Almeida, Chris Mutino, Eddie Wineland. All 5 of those guys have one thing in common, and it's no striking defense, right? So to me, this just feels like a walk in the park here. I'm all over him. I have him in a max parlay with Amanda Nunes minus 198. It's a square parlay, but I'm not here for style points. I'm not here to make friends. I'm not here to prove anything. I'm here to make money. And to me, those are the 2 best matchups as far as the fighters, the favorites' skills based on what they offer. I think O'Malley's a weight bully. He's got good feints, good traps, good finishing instincts. Kyler Phillips is in his camp. He's going to be getting some tips and some good looks in practice, considering they are training partners. And I just think O'Malley's just going to be too much for him. O'Malley's grappling. I mean, if we're gonna bring that up, Paiva's probably not going to shoot here, but if it were to go down there, O'Malley's his jiu-jitsu is not bad, and you go watch the Gilbert Melendez jiu-jitsu match. He was out there rolling on Melendez, dude, and Melendez is a fucking big ass motherfucker. It says a draw on Tapology.
I forgot he did that match. I'm gonna go back and watch that.
It says draw on Tapology. It wasn't a draw. O'Malley, it was a draw because the time ran out, but O'Malley was out there just. Melendez is a legit submission grappler, big weight bully, and I just think that all these questions about O'Malley's grappling are far-fetched. Paiva's a walking punching bag in the first round. If you're gonna bet Paiva, why not wait till round 2? We know he's not winning round 1. What you want him to kick the perennial nerve, man? Like what do you want from Paiva? Like this dude's gonna go out here. He's a 125er. He's usually the taller guy in most of his fights, correct? He's going to be smaller. He's going to be less rangier, and I trust Sean's finishing instincts. I I don't think I know he's gonna have Paiva hurt early, and this dude likes highlights. He's not here. He's not here to get wins. He's here to get checks. He's here to get highlights. He wants stuff that that everyone's talking about. And we saw that in the Matino fight. He gave everything just to get a fucking finish. Literally everything. He does not want a decision win on his record. Like, this dude's gonna go out there. He's gonna run for the finish, and I think he finds it. I don't see how Paiva gets this done outside of a flash KO. I really don't.
Yeah, well, Jack Attack's bringing up his chinny shins. And I think that, like I mentioned, I did see Paiva. He throws a decent volume of leg kicks. He throws them pretty hard. He throws them inside and outside. He throws 16% of the shots that he throws at distance are leg kicks. So if you're looking for that leg kick fade, Paiva is going to throw them, but I don't think he's ever finished a fight with leg kicks. It's rare to see him knock somebody off their feet with leg kicks. The only fight I can remember him like badly hurt somebody with them was Kai Kara France. And he did force Kai Kara to change his game plan completely in that fight. It turned him into a wrestler with the low kicks. But again, that's a flyweight matchup. This is a bantamweight fight. Sean O'Malley's a pretty big bantamweight, and he hits damn hard. Especially when he's hitting in volume. Yes, Marathon.
All I'm gonna say is that if anyone's recommending or giving out bets like Paiva, and they're telling you to put your money on a guy in hopes that he gets a leg kick knockout, TKO from leg kicks, run away, man, because you got to look at everything else. He is outclassed everywhere else this fight goes besides maybe jiu-jitsu. And if anyone's telling you to bet Paiva just based on the fact that he could hit the perennial nerve or get a leg kick TKO, that is not you don't want to be risking your money on that, man. Like, I just don't like that take.
Well, I would say it's definitely not a big bet if you're going to play Howley and Paiva. But what I would mention is this: Alan Nascimento is like a decent enough grappler, and I thought that Paiva was able to out-grapple him in their Contender Series fight. That was a little impressive to me. Tagir didn't have an easy time out-grappling, Nascimento in his fight. Definitely was scrambly, definitely had some mixed exchanges. So I just think that this guy, Howley and Paiva, that is his skill. But, I will grant you, it's not a sure thing, even if he gets him to the ground, that he's going to pass, that he's going to get a finish, anything like that. But I have seen Howley get top position, work from there, advance positions, threaten subs. I don't think he's a bad ground player, even against some decent enough competition. Go ahead, Marathon.
Oh, no, not much more for me to say besides the fact that this is 135, and I think Sean walks around probably 155, 160. So, I don't want to count on Paiva's grappling either, and I will wager any amount of money that Sean O'Malley has takedown defense.
I love it. There you go. And distance management is a big part of takedown defense in MMA, and I do think Sean O'Malley's distance management is very high level. So it's not likely he's getting taken down early here. There's a path late for Paiva, but he has to survive to get there. So I wouldn't bank on it with my money at this point. If I do get behind him, it will be a very small play on the money line. I had considered a Paiva decision poke because it paid out at an absurd rate last time. And I did cash that against Kyler Phillips. I did think that he won that fight. A lot of people say that they thought it was a 10-8. I understand that opinion. He did get dropped badly, but I thought he did a lot of damage in his own right in that round and had grappling success against Phillips in round one as well. So I thought that it was a back and forth round. Phillips obviously did more damage, but Paiva's not as blue chip a prospect. There's no way you could say that. He should not be the favorite. There's no way you could say that. But I think the line might be a touch wide. So I won't be playing O'Malley on the money line. I will be considering him from some of the prop perspectives potentially for this weekend. So we can move right along, guys. We've got, speak of the devil, Kai Kara France is in our next matchup at 125 pounds, taking on Cody Garbrandt, who's on a descent plan here for the first time. Bantamweight champion, on hard times in his own division, going to be dropping down here, says that he's been working with a nutritionist for 7 months. Seems like he's in good shape. This is a matchup I'm obviously going to want to see the weigh-ins. I think everybody's in agreement on that fact. But I also think that, not necessarily a soft landing for Cody here. I think obviously he could win this fight. He could definitely win this fight by knockout. But I think that Kai Kara-France is not bad at exchanging in the pocket, all things considered. I think he hits with decent power. I think some of the guys that have given him problems have been people that could mix in the grappling, Raulian Paiva included. I thought that that was a close fight because of his grappling. You know, when they were striking, broadly speaking, Kai Kara-France was getting the better of those exchanges. But like I mentioned, the leg kick started to get to him a little bit. I think that Cody, if he's able to get his leg kick game going here, maybe he can have some success in that range of the fight, in that phase. But I think that Kai Kara-France is live to win this fight by knockout. And I think he's also live to win this fight by decision. You know, I think that this is probably going to be pretty closely contested. Cody doesn't throw a tremendous amount of volume. He's a little bit hittable. He keeps his hands a little bit low. He doesn't grapple very proactively. And when he does, he doesn't tend to secure large segments of control time. And so, you know, I find it hard to see how Cody's going to justify this price unless he knocks him out in the first round. So, you know, I think it's just an interesting fight for me. There's some unknowns here about how Cody's going to look and perform at the new weight class. And I don't think it's being factored into the line. I don't think Kai Kara-France is a bad prospect at flyweight either. I think he's got some upside potentially in the division. He's got a lot of experience. He comes from a good camp. So I don't think that he's just a bum fighter either. He's got a lot of losses, which is a little concern. But I think most of the guys that get him out of there are people that can grapple proactively. You know, even you look at the Brandon Royval fight, he rocked Brandon Royval so badly and he Greg Hardied himself. He ran in, he got hit with that spinning elbow and never looked the same again in that fight. And ended up shooting a takedown on a guy who was much better at jiu-jitsu. So I think that if Kai Kara-France is wrestling in this fight, it may not cost him in as dire a fashion as it has in some of his previous fights. Not to say he's going to have success, but I think he can potentially negate Cody's wrestling. So I don't know what the confidence is for Cody here. Obviously, he's going to feel a little bit better as a bigger athlete, but he's not even going to have a reach advantage for his first fight down in the weight. He's going to be the taller guy, but taller guys with a reach disadvantage isn't always a benefit. So this is a really tricky fight to cap. You know, I liked Kai Kara-France much better at the big plus money, plus 150, things like that. Plus 120 is the best available now. So I don't love the price as much, but I'll probably be in for at least a half a unit on Kai Kara-France this weekend at the plus money tag. How do you feel, Marathon?
Yeah, so you made a good point. This is one of those fights where you're going to want to wait till weigh-ins to bet, especially if you're a Cody backer. The prices came down for you, so you're in no position to hurry to get a bet in on him. Wait for the weigh-ins. You know, it's not like he's growing larger and larger as a favorite. If you liked Kai, you're a little late. You're a little late to the show because the value's gone, and you're going to be betting a guy plus 120 who's probably, as far as skill wise, he is outmatched here. Kai Kara-France is not more technical and skilled than Cody Garbrandt. But what's the factor that's cooked into the line that's been cooked into every Cody Garbrandt line? The chin, right? So if you like Kai, you're a little late to the show. I don't know what to tell you. I would stay away now at plus 120, 115. It's just not there. You wanted to get in on that plus 160 to 140 range. And if you like Cody, keep waiting. The money's just rolling in on Kai. You want to see the weigh-ins. Cody might not even come in here and look sucked up. We don't know, you know, because he didn't really cut much weight to get down to 35. So for me, no really read here. I am confident when I say Cody is the better martial artist. I do think that he is more technically better pretty much wherever this fight goes. But I can't trust my money on Cody. Maybe if I get, you know, if the body language and, you know, the fire and the weigh-ins is there, maybe it shoots a light up my ass and I fucking go bet Cody, but I just don't see it happening. So, yeah, if you like Cody, keep waiting. Let's see the weigh-ins. And if you like Kai, I hope you got in early because I think that plus 120 for a guy that is probably outmatched everywhere outside of durability, you're probably late, and I just stay away.
Fair enough. And the only things I'll add here on the way out is I was impressed by Kai Kara-France's level of competition overall. You know, it's not like he's been fighting bums. Lost to Brandon Moreno via decision in 2019. Not a bad loss. We can all understand that. Beats Tyson Nam by decision. Another striker able to outstrike him. Brandon Royval has some success, gets caught by, probably the funkiest, most chaotic guy in the division. I don't really give him a huge demerit for that. I predicted that was going to happen, basically in that fashion. And then Rogerio Bontorin, I think Rogerio is a pretty decent prospect in the division as well, was able to get to his exact positions that he wanted, couldn't finish, gassed himself, fell off, and then got finished instantly. And I do think that he carries some power in this 125-pound division. He has, a very comparable knockdown rate for powerful flyweight punchers. Cody's coming down with a better knockdown rate. But again, how much of that power is going to translate down a division? I think it's at least a live question. But I got to admit, somebody pointed out in the comment section, Cody's definitely a better wrestler. It jogged my memory. Cody is a Ohio State champion. So he should be the better wrestler. I always will take an Ohio State champion over a guy from Australia in a wrestling match. But that being said, I do think that Kai is from a camp where they work on that kind of stuff. I don't think he's going to be completely outclassed there. And Cody is like a takedown wrestler. He's not a control-based wrestler, at least from what I've seen from him in the octagon. So with all that being said, we can move right along. We've got interesting to see it placed this high on the card, in my opinion. But we've got a matchup at welterweight between Jeff Neal, hands of steel, kind of been on hard times. Me and Marathon were also in the DMs about this one because, this man, Jeff Neal, I'm not trying to, go through people's personal life and all this stuff, but, been getting arrested in the lead up to this fight, possible DUI, possible gun charges. And, if you read the explanation from the camp, it makes a little bit more sense, but you're drinking during fight camps right before, 2 weeks out from a really big pay-per-view opportunity doesn't speak very well to me about the level of preparation. But I did look. He looks like he's been in the gym. He looks like he's been working out. I don't want to get out over my skis with a narrative here. Jeff Neal's the younger guy. That's something I don't love about my bet, but I'm on Pons here for a small play. Just over a unit. And it's because I think that Pons is probably going to have opportunities to win this fight with the jab. I think that a Ponzinibbio decision is the most likely outcome. I think he's going to throw a little bit more. I think he's going to be able to command the range just a bit. I'm a little bit worried about the durability, but I think that the dog is still there in Pons. That's what he showed me in his last fight against Baeza. I think that, the Baeza fight was like a must win for Pons. I think the pressure is going to be a little bit off his shoulders here. I think Jeff Neal hasn't really been presenting the same version of himself in these in these most recent fights. I bet a pretty sizable bet, 4 units on Wonderboy Thompson against Jeff Neal. I was confident that Wonderboy would win that fight, absolutely outclassed him. And then, it was kind of a lifeless performance. Even as a Wonderboy backer, I was, a little bit stunned that Jeff Neal never found his way into the fight down the stretch. Then, moreover, you see Jeff Neal come out and give a pretty listless, lifeless performance against, Neil Magny. He might be fighting for his career here. That's why I'm a little bit, nervous. I do hate fighting or backing guys who are in that kind of position. But, Jeff Neal had some health problems compounded with performance problems, confidence problems outside the octagon. It's just a lot of problems. And at a pick'em price, Santiago Ponzinibbio has just shown me he can overcome adversity. He can still dance with these young guys like Miguel Baeza, come out on top, and work his way back into a fight, even if it starts going poorly for him. So I think overall, I got to like Santiago Ponzinibbio here. I'm going to bet him as well. And I think that, unless we see Jeff Neal looking like, a new version of himself and fired up at the weigh-in or something like this, the line on Pons is probably going to continue to crawl out to the minus 150 territory as far as I'm concerned. How do you feel about this one?
Yeah, so I already broke down this fight. A lot of my clients like when I tape a weekend ahead, so I try to get it out early for the CLV. I already rated Pons higher than Neal. I already liked Pons. More technical on the feet, more experience. He pressures. What does Jeff Neal hate? Pressure. He comes forward. He throws good leg kicks. Like you were talking about that jab. I just think everything pointed to him coasting to a dominant decision. Jeff Neal's gun shy, doesn't fucking throw. Like even in your losses, man, at least try something. Give a good account of yourself in a loss. He's not doing that. So and now you're gonna tell me that Neal gets a Dewey, weapon charge, spends time in jail mid training camp, a guy that we've already known for having health problems that he's been vocal about. And now this is happening. Like, where's this dude's head at? Because even when his head was there, man, going to the Wonder Boy fight, Neil Magny fight, like this dude's gun shy. He's not believing in his abilities. And I just, it's just the narrative just adds a stamp on the bet. It's just like one of those things where if you had pawns for a unit, now you maybe add a unit. The narrative it's just a sprinkle on the top, man. So, I do agree. I like over 2.5 plus 140 is value. Fight goes to decision plus 150 is value. Pawns decision plus 275, a lot of value. I do have a 2.5 unit bet on pawns minus 110 right now, and I'm thinking about adding a unit to the fight goes to decision, and then adding another half unit to the pawns decision. I just think that this is one of those fights that you could get away with double dipping. Vegas could be off here. They're more right than we are most of the time, but I see this fight going all three at a high clip. Pons has looked to slow down recently since coming back. He's not a world beater. He's not this dude that's gonna, at this point in his career, knock you out in the first round. And I'm pretty confident that Neal ain't gonna come in here and do that either. So, the overs, man. The overs, the fight goes to decision. These are all great bets. Pawns decision, great bet. And this is one of those fights where you could maybe catch Vegas slipping and get a double dip.
I hear you, man. I think that Pond's decision is what I like as well in this fight. Plus 275 on DraftKings, great number. Not available across the market, so do your price shopping there. Get the best one available to you. But that DraftKings one is an outlier for sure. So take advantage if you like the Ponzinibbio side this weekend. That being said, guys, we can move right along. We got a championship bout taking place in the UFC women's bantamweight division. Not a fight that we are excited about on this side. My man Marathon already given the slash across the throat. This one's not piquing his interest too much. So we'll kick it to my man Marathon first before I drop what I've got on this one.
The lamb has been sent to the slaughterhouse, man. That's all this is. It's kind of like Kayla Harrison's fights where, what me and you are going to be doing on this breakdown right now is pretty much just trying to predict how she's feeling in the morning. What she wants to do with this poor lamb. Does she want to sub her? Does she want to knock her out? Does she want to put her on her back for 5 rounds and talk to her like she's Khabib? But the problem here is that Pena ran her mouth a lot, and you go watch the interviews. This girl's out here really talking shit about Amanda Nunes. So I think this is one of those things, kind of like maybe a Rousey Betch Correia thing, where Nunes is gonna put a stamp on this finish early. She's not gonna play with her food. But like I said, it comes down to the Kayla Harrison effect. Does Kayla want to snap her arm? Does Kayla want to show off her striking? This is one of those things. You made a great point that Pena's considered this jiu-jitsu god, according to the fight, like the fight build-up. Like, they're calling her a jiu-jitsu specialist, man. This girl got standing guillotined by GDR. Like, I don't even know what to say about that. That's the easiest choke to get out of in MMA. Like, so it's comes down to one of those things where you got to guess what Amanda decides to do, and the TKO is not even worth doing. So if you're not taking our money line, maybe you like the under, but I know sub prop is something you're going to talk about. I'm not personally going to play it, but I do think that that is a good bet. I do have 5 units on Nunes O'Malley minus 190. I think getting that in at anything less than minus 200 or even 250 is that's just free beer money, man. So I threw $250 on it. Like I said, I'm not here to get style points. I don't give a shit if a bet's square. I like money more than what people have to think about my juice plays. So 5 units O'Malley Nunes. pretty much just going to enjoy the slaughter. I'm not going to try to get cute and predict how she does it. I'll let you do that.
Absolutely, buddy. And for me, this is a kind of fight that is pretty simple to break down, right? The narrative is all one way. It's going to be Amanda Nunes. It's going to be Amanda Nunes by knockout. So for me, I just was like, okay, why? Why is it going to be Amanda Nunes by knockout? It's very possible, right? She hits with a lot of power, but how are we seeing her opponent lose fights? Is she getting knocked out time over time? And that's not really what we're seeing. You know, Julianna Pena, she likes to put herself in grappling fights. You know, she likes to grapple. She likes to get in there and try and wrestle people. And she has said, you know, I'm trying to keep it simple. That's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to put her on her back. I'm going to dominate from top position. Okay, that's fine by me. I think that Amanda, what she demonstrated in her UFC run is that she takes what she has available to her, right? So she'll rock somebody on the feet, no doubt about it. And if they're a primary striker, she's going to knock them out on the feet, you know, most often, because Amanda will engage you where you want to engage. You know, you want to get in that striking battle, she'll do it with the best of them, right? Cyborg gets in there and she gets outstruck by Amanda. Amanda keeps it in that range, knocks her cold, right? This fight, GDR is going to put herself in every grappling position that she possibly can. The problem is, I don't think she's the better grappler, right? That's her only path to winning in all likelihood. You know, she's never shown herself to have power on the feet. So I think in all likelihood, unless she's going to like push Amanda into the fence and land knees to the body, it's going to have to be, you know, she gets on top of her. She gets a submission. She gets on her back, something like this. So what I like about this fight is that everybody's thinking it's going to be an Amanda knockout. And so the line is heavily juiced towards Nunes KO. And vice versa is that you can get, you know, this big plus money number on the fight ends by submission, right? If that's the number one way that I think Nunes, it's her top two ways to win the fight. Okay, great. Now it's also Pena's top way of winning the fight is by submission. For me, that's a good play at the plus 320 tag and above. And in addition, Amanda by sub, you know, I think she's going to win this fight. I think she's probably going to win it early. You know, I cashed out on Amanda by first round sub in her last fight. And so maybe I'm just feeling good and trying to go back to the well. But I really think that Amanda Nunes is a capable submission grappler. And in a fight where she's going to have somebody trying to grapple her, I think she's likely to get a finish here on the ground. And so if she's going to get the ground finish, she's probably going to find a sub. GDR was able to do it. You know, I got to give credit. Pena was put to sleep, like out cold, knocked out cold, slept, snoring in the arms of GDR from that choke. And I don't see any reason why Amanda Nunes can't do that. She is the best for a reason. She's trained with very high-level jiu-jitsu practitioners. She's trained and beat up men for as long as, you know, people in her orbit have been aware of. So it's like, this girl is the real deal. I just don't see Julianna Pena on the same level. I see people who are betting on her money line at a huge plus ticket. You know, I get it at a certain price. You know, if this line just continues to go and you want to just have that outside possibility that you'll be on the night that Amanda Nunes, you know, checks out, I just don't think this is the challenge. I think Amanda is going to run through her in every position. So I like Amanda here, and I like her to win the fight inside the distance. I like her to get it done early, first 2 rounds. And the one thing I'll notice, though, is that Amanda, if she doesn't finish people early, the fight tends to be a longer fight. And that is the only thing that concerns me with playing those under bets. You know, maybe if you have access to multiple options, you look for a under 2.5 and under 3.5 as opposed to the under 1.5, because we just might miss it by a minute or two. And that can always be frustrating. Just something to keep in the back of your mind. So with that being said, we can move on to the main event of the evening. This is the fight that we've all been waiting for. This is, for me, the most compelling fight on the entire fight card, the lightweight division, the premiere of the UFC, and we've got 2 guys standing above the division. Very impressive win streaks to the both of them. Dustin Poirier puts away Conor McGregor twice in a row, closes out the trilogy in impressive fashion, and moves along to a title opportunity after having been denied by Khabib Nurmagomedov. So this is a huge opportunity for Dustin Poirier. He's taking on Charles Oliveira, who's coming off of the biggest win of his career. He secures UFC gold. He puts a capstone on an incredible career. And believe it or not, guys, Charles Oliveira, despite the number of fights, despite the crazy number of finishes and the number of submissions, he's actually the younger guy in this matchup as well. You know, both of these guys in their early 30s, both of them in the prime of their career. This is a fantastic fight, and I'm very fired up to hear what my man Marathon thinks about it. As I kick it over to Marathon, I'm just going to say, go ahead and like this video if you haven't already. Go ahead and shout out my man Marathon. Go ahead and get following on Twitter at MarathonMMA. He drops free picks. He drops opportunities for people to get involved with his service at discounted rates. You could always contact him, let him know that Liam sent you, and get yourself some extra blessings. But my man Marathon, how do you feel about the main event of the evening for UFC 269?
Yeah, man, I'm probably just as excited as you are. What a fight. It's going to be one of those fights where someone's getting finished. I do have a play. I got 3 units on this fight and the co-main, so both title fights. Neither to hit round 5, minus 120. So as long as either fight doesn't hit round 5, it's like stealing, man. It's stealing, because my thing is that if Charles doesn't get him out early in the first round, second round, Poirier will start that heart, that will, that power, that, you know, he's just to start wearing on Charles late. So we kind of have like a cut. It's really simple to break this fight down. Charles's win equity is probably in round 1, round 2. Poirier's is maybe round 2, round 3. I don't see this hitting the championship rounds. Either fighter can honestly win in the first round, which is why I like the bet even more. It's a hard fight to break down because, you know, it would be easy for us to say, oh, you know, Poirier has this fight won on, you know, we know he'll be there later in the fight. He's got that dog in him. He's got that willpower. Can't be denied. You know, he's got so much heart, but it would be easy for us to say, oh, and then look at Oliveira. He doesn't have heart. You know, when fights don't go his way, he quits. That was the case until we saw the Chandler fight, man. The Chandler fight changed everything for me as far as what I thought about the dude. You know, he could have quit in that fight. You know, he could have quit in that fight. I think it's so much different now that this guy, you know, long time guy in the UFC, finally got the belt. I think that he's to the point where I'll die in there before I give that belt up now. You know what I mean? This dude's been in here. You know, there's like 3 fighters on the roster that were in the UFC when he made his debut. Like, I think this dude's willing to die to keep that belt. So I think we're in store for a fucking treat, man. Because every narrative, everything we thought about Oliveira on the downside, none of it's true anymore. You know what I mean? But I do think Poirier has a huge cardio advantage here. Someone's winning in the first 3 rounds. That's all I'm going to say. You want to take the under 3.5? It's safe. Take it. That's probably one of the best plays to attack this card. You don't have to pick a side here. Just roll the under and enjoy the violence, man. That's all I can say to you guys.
Cheers to that. And that is a take from a very sharp individual, folks. So you want to take that very seriously. Marathon puts his money where his mouth is. And in addition, right, he talked about a couple different ways we could target this where we don't have to back a side at all. That being said, I'm going to come down on a side here as well. I'm going to be betting Bronx. I'm going to be betting Charles Oliveira. I'm betting Chucky Olives, ladies and gentlemen. And the reason is simple. This might be our last opportunity to bet this guy at dog money for a while in the UFC, especially if he wins this fight on Saturday night. I think Dustin is probably the hardest stylistic matchup for Charles right now, or one of them in the top 5. Dustin has good, very serviceable defensive grappling. He's got good wrestling, but his takedown defense isn't everything, right? He's been taken down by lesser grapplers, by lesser wrestlers, in my opinion. So I don't think that he's got bulletproof takedown defense. Number 2, I don't think that Dustin Poirier is like a lock to win this fight on the feet, ladies and gentlemen. If you think that he is, I would encourage you to go back and watch the rise of Charles Oliveira through the lightweight division. This isn't featherweight Charles. This is lightweight Charles, all right? He comes direct now. He's throwing fast, proper strikes with good technique at a good distance and landing very hard. His left hook is very dangerous, and Conor was landing his left hook on Dustin Poirier at times. I think that the longer levers of Charles Oliveira could play a role here. I think that Charles, he's a slightly younger guy. He's a little bit bigger. He's got a grappling edge. They've got similar power on the feet. For me, this is a fight where it could be a flip of the coin. It could be anybody's ball game. Somebody's probably getting finished. Somebody's probably getting finished in violent fashion. But what's to say that Dustin Poirier, who has found a way out in submission grappling bouts before, right? Who has been, if you see mental anguish on Dustin Poirier, it's only, I repeat, only in the grappling department. The guy is like rock solid in the striking. He was getting beat up by Dan Hooker and just like, a couple deep breaths in the corner, and he was ready to go again, after a 2-round beating. I think that this guy, Charles Oliveira, is a little bit slept on. I think that people are in love with the narrative of Dustin Poirier, and I think it makes sense, right? We love to see good guys have good things happen, but this is combat sports, baby, and that's not always the way this game is played. And I think that Charles Oliveira is a very talented mixed martial artist. I think that this is anybody's ball game. I think plus 145 says to me, I got to get involved on the Charles side. I get the ABCs say always bet on cardio. I don't think either of these guys is like a runaway cardio guy. Obviously, Dustin Poirier can throw a tremendous amount of volume. I do trust him as the fight goes on in terms of staying focused, staying committed. He is a dog. But I also think that if Dustin is getting taken down and held down, we know how he reacts. It's not very positively. He starts to worry. He starts to think about his cardio and his gas. And I think that, against Khabib, a lot of it was technical, but I think a lot of it was mental. And I think the pressure got to him. I think he wasn't comfortable. He could never find his comfort on the feet. And I think it affected his ability to strike. One of the things that I like to talk about when I'm breaking down these matchups as well is Raulian Paiva's takedown, his striking defense looks one way against wrestlers. It looks a little bit better against strikers, typically, in my opinion. I think the same can be said for Dustin Poirier. When he is in there and he can predict this is going to be a striking affair, he's going to come out with his defense correct. I think if he thinks there's wrestling on the table, he might be backing up a little bit more in this fight. He might be carrying his hands a little bit lower, some things that we saw in the Khabib fight. And I think Charles is the kind of guy who could take advantage of that with his long rangy kicks, with his strikes to multiple levels of the body, and also with those long punches that are, proven to have some power behind him. He really folded up Chandler in a way that made people think Chandler has no chin, right? And I remember everybody said it at the time. And I just want those receipts on that opinion when Michael Chandler eats, punch after punch after punch from Justin Gaethje, another one of the hardest punchers in the division. I think that, Charles Oliveira actually can crack, and I think people are sleeping on his ability to win this fight by knockout. Dustin Poirier, great fighter, very durable, very talented, lot to like. But he's been on the other end of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of strikes from some of the most powerful guys in the division. He's in war after war. And I think that it just might catch up to him against somebody like Charles, who can crack, who's aggressive, who's not afraid to get in there and bang a little bit, and who's not afraid to throw kicks, because if he gets taken down, he is one of the most lethal guys in the entire sport. So I could see, somebody else saying here that Olives has never gone past round 3. That's a legit point. Oliveira has been subbed a bunch, so it's not out of the question. I think that's a legit point, guys. Late in this fight, jiu-jitsu, people have this impression that it's all about skills. Guys, it's like anything else. It's all about skills until you're exhausted. It's all about skills until you're going with somebody 100 pounds bigger than you. It's all about skills for a lot of reasons, but not every reason. And I think in this fight, if it gets to rounds 4 and 5, anything is possible. Somebody could get positionally TKO'd with ground and pound, but I would be stunned if the main event fight goes the distance, streak continues one more week, because guys, this is a freaking banger between two certified finishers and two guys who are willing to go out on their shield to sacrifice at the altar of athletic glory. I think we're in for an absolute treat. I think somebody's going down. I hope that it's Dustin for the sake of my bet. But I can honestly say, as a fight fan, I'm satisfied with either outcome here. I think we got the two right guys for the job. These are two amazing lightweights. These are two guys who have scratched, clawed, earned the hard way a spot in this division. And I really believe that we're going to be in for a treat. So let's get it on, Marathon. I'm excited to see how this one shakes out, brother. Any closing thoughts from you? Did you have any closing thoughts there, Marathon?
Yeah, I don't know if it's just me, but your mic is super static. Hopefully, it's just my stuff. I hope nobody missed those last few points you said. A couple more things I would mention for the main event is that where is Poirier's head mentally after 2 red panty nights? I saw that he rented out a mansion for fight week. I don't like that. I know Charlie's still very hungry. That title means more than anything to him. Where is Dustin's head out after 2 McGregor paydays? Let's find out Saturday.
We're back. Sorry about that, Marathon. As you were saying, brother.
Yeah, could you hear me?
I missed what you were saying, unfortunately, but we're back. The Wi-Fi held together so beautifully for us till right at the end there.
Yeah, I did. I think they got to hear what I had to say, huh?
All right, wonderful. So, guys, we've done it. Top to bottom, we made it through UFC 269. Appreciate my man Marathon coming on once again to drop knowledge for the people. I hope that you guys got a good experience out of this show. A lot of people have been active in the chat today. Appreciate each and every one of you guys. I think that this could be a phenomenal fight card. I think we've got one of the most stacked offerings of the entire year. So we're closing out the year strong. I will tell you guys, I've got another breakdown set up. We're going hard for UFC 269. I'm going back into the tape tonight, and I'm going to have some more opinions for you. Another guest as well coming on the channel to be breaking down these fights. So we will be back at it. Stay tuned to the channel. Get subscribed if you aren't already. And thank you guys once again. God bless you all. Enjoy these fights. This has been another great episode of Liam Picks Fights. Come back next Friday. Come back next week. We're going to do it all over again for UFC Vegas because we got a Dawkins brother coming back for one more war for the year. The Dawkins brother's been getting me paid this year, baby. Let's see if we can get one more to close out the year if we're going to be backing him against Darrick Lewis, the Black Beast. So should be a fun way to close out the year for the UFC, and appreciate my man Marathon stopping by. Marathon, if you could, let the people know where they can find you on the way out here.
Yeah, the handle that's right below right here at MarathonMMA. I'm a paid tout plus 210 units currently. 110 profited last year, and we're at 90 this year. So we're on track to break 100 for the second straight year. Liam has a referral code with me. If anyone's interested, you could always just come try out a card with me, and we can go from there. So at Marathon MMA, drop a follow, and make sure you guys subscribe, man. Liam's putting in a ton of work each week for you guys. So make sure you drop a subscribe, make sure you drop a like, and he'll keep producing good content for you guys.
Appreciate that a ton, Marathon. And if you guys want more from me outside of the videos that I produce on YouTube every week, you can find my work on premium picks at scoresandodds.com. Stay tuned to my Twitter account today. I'm going to be dropping a link. We're going to be giving out some premium subscriptions for a time in accordance with this UFC 269 card. So like I said, check in on Twitter. This show has been brought to you by PrizePicks. That's the last thing I got to mention on the way out. If you guys want to get involved, if you want to sign up, if you want to put something in for UFC 269, use my promo code Liam, just like with my man Marathon, and it'll get you that extra little hookup. All right. So appreciate you guys very much. We'll be back later in the week. Thank you all. God bless you. Have a great night.